Welcome to the rebirth of the Talkin' Tomahawk podcast. I have Alan Carpenter with me today. Alan is an occasional contributor to our website and is formerly the longtime co-editor of Tomahawk Take, Fansided, now known as House That Hank Built, and the host of the old podcast Off Leo's Rocker. So Alan is here today. We're going to review the Braves last week. We're going to look ahead and talk Braves for as long as this Zoom meeting will allow us to. Alan, how you doing?
Greetings. How you doing, Seth? I'm glad to be here. Glad to jump back in the saddle here, and we'll see if we can do something that's useful for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's what everybody's hoping for from the Braves. It's been kind of a rough year. The sentiment online, I know, kind of, yeah. The sentiment online has been extremely negative. I hope it's a little too early to embrace that sentiment, but we'll see. I understand it. We're all passionate about the Atlanta Braves, and it hurts when they do us wrong. So we'll take a look back at the week, which is not a bad week for us. But Alan, you remember the 7 straight losses to start the season?
Oh yeah, very much so. In fact, I was looking at that schedule. It's like, ooh, this could be bad to start with, and it was.
Right, it was the road trip is set all on the West Coast: San Diego, LA Dodgers. But after that, it was not a good thing. We felt terrible. But the Braves were only 7 games below 500 at that point. Coming into this week, they lost on June 8th, Sunday, June the 8th. And that loss to San Francisco was their 7th in a row. So that was the second time that Atlanta has lost 7 games in a row this year. And that one, I believe, put them 10 games under 500. So, it's magnified in the beginning of the season, but it arguably was even worse to do it again.
It was, and they've had a rough schedule, and there's no doubt about that. But you could go back and look at the off season, the fact that they were not able to add any impact players to speak of. No, I'm not even counting Jurickson Profar, wouldn't even if he was actually playing. But I believe that going back that far, Alex Anthopoulos had a plan to add some pitching and had a plan to add some players. He said on October 4th, we're going to increase the payroll. That hasn't happened. And it didn't happen probably because they were either trying to nickel and dime somebody or nobody that he wanted was actually agreeable to join the team. So what we ended up with was obviously a patchwork of players to fill positions as role players, and that has not boded well. Now that's one aspect. Number two aspect is they've had a lot of travel. This is that San Francisco series that you mentioned made the third time this team has already ended up on the West Coast. That's a lot for this year, or a lot for any year to get 3 trips out west this early. Back in the days before 30 teams were on, or 29 other teams were on the schedule, 3 times was about the limit that you'd have in an entire season. Uh, but we had this series of games where he had Arizona back in Atlanta, then San Francisco on the West Coast, and then all the way to Milwaukee. They managed to pull 2 out in Milwaukee, but it's a tired team, I think already, and we can make some excuses, but that's just one thing to pile on onto the fact that you've got a team that's probably not constructed as Alex Anthopoulos expected, and a team that's a little tired, and a team that's just not performing up to the kind of thing level that we expect for this kind of a ball club.
Yeah, and the Milwaukee series was, as much as it stinks to lose so many games in a row, the Milwaukee series was the first series that the Braves won after losing 6 consecutive series. So
Yeah.
that's a rough skid. And, you talked about you think Anthopoulos was envisioning signing somebody? I think a lot of people thought they were going to go out and get a starting pitcher.
Yeah.
I feel like that was what everybody was writing about and projecting, and who's the starting pitcher they're going to go after. And we're all making lists and looking at who's available. And this wasn't anything that we talked. We were going to get right into how they did in the last week, what's coming up. But I was just having this conversation with my son, and I just feel like this is our first time to do the podcast this year. So let me just ask you, it's been a while. Max Fried, he's killing it with New York. In my mind, I wrote an article last year because I said this is why the Braves aren't going to sign Max Fried. He's not coming back. But I thought
Right.
for sure this guy's worth 30 million or more a year. When you look back over whatever period of time you want to look back to, if you go back to 2020 and on, it's him and Garrett Cole, and that's it. I mean, I don't think he got the credit that he deserved as one of the elite pitchers in the game. And I, even at the money he got, I I'm just surprised that he wasn't. If it was under 30 million a year, I'm really surprised he didn't come back to Atlanta. What are you thinking on Max Fried?
I gotta think that he just was not given the kind of offer that the Yankees were going to give him, and I don't know that there was ever a real serious run. It was kind of like the Dansby Swanson thing. Um, Clearly, the Braves offer, whatever it was blown out of the water by whatever the Cubs did. I think the same thing probably happened with the Yankees as well. I can presume that they might have offered him something between 24 and 26 a year. Had they gotten all the way up to 30, I really don't think that they were playing in those kind of waters. And that's unfortunate, but this seemed like handwriting on the wall for quite a while. And if the Braves were going to make a run at him, they should have done it or would have done it a couple of years before. And maybe they tried. Maybe Max was going to make a free agency push all along. That's my presumption. That's my belief. He was definitely you know big in the baseball players union, and that's the kind of thing that such a player would do is make sure that he is out there on the free agent market trying to get every dollar he can because that's the kind of thing that would happen there. Um, so I just don't think that there was a good shot that the Braves had. Were they going after Garrett Crochet? Were they going after Dylan Cease? I would hope they were. That didn't happen, at least not so far. There's a chance that they could get one of them next off season. He's a free agent. Cease, right? And uh, that's a possibility there. But at some point, they're going to have to break that $22 million a year barrier that they seem to have
Yep.
artificially set up for all these players. And they're just going to have to find the right guy to throw money at. Because I think it's pretty apparent around the league that you've got to have an aircraft carrier. You've got to have a guy that's going to lead the team, and he needs to be paid commensurate with that. And so that's unfortunately where we are, and that's why we're in the situation we are because they didn't quite either find that guy this last off season or weren't willing to pay him. I'm not sure which one it was, but clearly it was one of those.
It is funny too that we went straight to starting pitching when that's probably been one of the strong suits for the team. You look back to May 1st, it's a 3.18 ERA as of June 12th. I think I did some research on it prior to this, but it's changed a little bit since then. But Spencer Strider went out, which leads us to the next point about highlights of the week. I picked two guys, they're very obvious ones, but Spencer Strider returned to form after his velocity was down. When he came back, he made that first start back from the year off for the internal brace procedure. And his velocity was, if I remember correctly, he was 97 in the first inning. And then I think he suffered that hamstring tweak, and he came in and was throwing 94, later in that game. Before you knew, you could tell something was wrong in that first game. And then what we were just talking about, you were saying, hey, since he returned from the IL the second time this year, he's been 2 miles an hour plus slower on his average fastball velocity. Saturday, Strider strikes out 13 over 6 innings, and his velocity was back. And it was the Rockies, but I think more importantly was his velocity was back and the stuff was good. And it sets us up for what's coming up. Hopefully, we get that same Spencer Strider when we meet the Mets next week. But that one, Spencer Strider returning to form, is my highlight of the week, just because of, with 5 guys in the rotation, typically that 3-headed monster at the top, we need Strider and Sale and Schwellenbach to be the guys they've been the last, 1+ year or whatever. We need those 3 guys at the top to anchor things down.
Absolutely. And it was good to see that happening. Yes, you're going to occasionally get games like what we saw today, as we're recording on Sunday. Grant Holmes going out there and shoving the strikeouts that he did. Occasionally, you're going to get games out of Bryce Elder like that. He did so against San Francisco. But those aren't the guys you're depending on. The guys you're depending on are the 3 S's: Schwellenbach, Sale, and Strider. You could not expect Strider to come back and show Cy Young form from day one. But now that he seems to have a few games underneath him and has gotten himself back into game shape, we're starting to see that again. So that's great to see. We lost the other S, the Smith Shawver, unfortunately, earlier this year, but that was just yet another blow. This is why you need always more starting pitching than you think you need. But right now we're trying to set things up, and this will be a teaser for later. We're trying to set up those 3 S's to be the horses against the Mets coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and the second highlight of the week is Ronald Acuna Jr. Very easy highlight to point to. Obviously, had a fantastic week, but we have some fun facts about Ronald Acuna. Acuna hit. Now, keep in mind, this was prior to today's game, so none of these stats included today's game. But for the week, he hit 632. He had a 696 OBP when you add the 4 walks. So he had 12 hits and 4 walks in 23 plate appearances this week. He slugged 1158 with 3 homers and a double, and he stole a base. He stole a base, and some of the fun facts that I wrote down were that, and you could see it. I think it was the first game back, wasn't it, when he made that throw from the outfield, and you could see they were talking about how he was really focusing in his recovery on building leg strength to support his knees and surgically repaired ligaments, and
Right.
And you can see it. You can see it looking at Acuna. You can see he looks a little bigger, not Mike Trout big or anything like that, but he looks great. Like he looks like an athlete out there. And that leg strength, I think, is showing with some of these, what you see on the field and some of these numbers. He's instantly the 100th percentile in arm strength, according to StatCast. So he's the top of the arm strength in the entire league. And in 2023, his average exit velocity, now this is hitting, I'm shifting to hitting. Exit velocity was 94.7 miles per hour of the year. He won the MVP. So far this year, he's at 95 miles an hour. On that steal, they measured his sprint speed at over 30 feet per second. So the speed is there. The strength is there. We've, the gargantuan homers, the loud pop that stops you dead in your tracks if you're working in a day game. That happened to me the other day. I didn't know he was up, and I heard the crack. It's a different sound. It always has been with Acuna, but this is it just feels different than how his was different before, and now it feels a little different than it used to be when it was different. You know what I mean?
It's starting to get put together, and that's kind of what we expected. Yeah, he had that flash in the first 3 games or so that he was back from the IL, and now there's been this lull where it's sort of the adrenaline has stopped, the timing has got to be there, and now the timing is coming in, and I think that we're going to see some great things from him for the rest of the season. Now, the trick is, of course, is he going to have a supporting cast to work with? Because he can't win these games all by himself, and that's the unfortunate part. We're seeing games lately where the Braves are starting to string together a bunch of hits. And that's what we need to see. And that's where we really start developing run support for these pitchers that are going out in there and shoving every day. That's what we need. It's not the
Yeah,
Ronald
and
show.
and to your point about it being the Ronald show, here's some numbers on how basically he's been the offense since he's returned overall. So
Yeah.
since his return date, May 23rd, he's accounted for 30.4% of the team's home runs, 21.4% of the total runs scored for the team, and 16% of their RBIs from the leadoff spot. Comparing him, just showing the hole that he filled. And we all know that we had nothing in the leadoff spot before Acuna. But when you look at some of these numbers, it really shines a spotlight on it. It's glaring. And I'm going to go through these, but I also want to use this to consider where we're about to go at the end of the month when Profar returns, because we have that same gaping hole right now in left field with basically no production. But here's what, and Verdugo was hitting leadoff. We had some Eli White. So there's a lot of the same guys that accounted for the leadoff spot when we're looking at the Braves leadoff hitters before Acuna and how Acuna is doing compared to them. So in terms of hits per game, Acuna is at 1.45. He's almost at 1.5 hits per game, whereas previously they were at 0.9. Acuna has 7 home runs in 20 games, and in the 52 games prior to that, the Braves leadoff hitters had two homers. So runs scored, Acuna has 18 runs scored in 20 games. They had only scored 24 runs in the 52 games prior to that from the leadoff spot. RBI, he's driving in a lot more runs, 0.65 per game versus the 0.38 that they were doing before. And here's probably the most fun one is OPS. Braves leadoff hitters before Acuna was 603. Acuna, like we said before, what was it, 1178? It's phenomenal. So almost doubling the OPS. So Acuna, like you said, the problem is though when you go back to those percentages, he's not getting a ton of help right now. So before we move on, how are you feeling about Profar coming back and filling that gap in left field?
That's going to be a very interesting question. Number one, though, I don't think he's going to be able to do any worse than the way the team has been producing in that position in his absence. So anything he can do that would improve upon that would certainly be helpful. Is it going to happen right away? Probably not. Is it good? Was whatever he was taking contributing? I don't know that it was. I'm not sure that. I mean, he passed his drug test last year, for instance, while he was slugging, and the team got him signed because they thought they saw something that was different about his approach, about his swing, about how he operated at the plate. That had nothing to do with PEDs. So is he going to be better? Well, probably not right away, but he should be better at least than whatever they've been running out in the left field since then. Uh, I was trying to look up the numbers and I can't find my notes here, but the Braves have woeful production at multiple positions. It's left field, second base, and shortstop in particular. Second base is better than shortstop and left field, but we have seen this Atlanta team excel when they have had players roughly in the top 15 WAR wise for an entire season. That's not happening right now, but particularly that's in left field. It had been in right field as well, but of course now we've got somebody to plug that hole. So uh, is so your question is Profar going to help that? He'll help that, but it won't be right away. I think he will certainly be at least better than what they've been running out there.
Yeah, you can't have that many holes. And, if Profar can come back and be a 370, 380 OBP guy out there in left field, it might, and hopefully Ozzy can start hitting. That might make it a little easier to digest with a guy like Nick Allen, who plays spectacular defense,
Yes.
top level defense. And it's like if that one guy doesn't have any power, isn't no OPS, no slug, but he plays that kind of defense, that's fine.
We'll take that.
But
Mhm.
right, if that's the only guy, but right now there's too many. Ozzy's got to start hitting. It's got to happen.
Yep.
So okay, well, moving forward, then we know Acuna. Everything is positive right now. I don't want to talk about his strikeout rate. It might be a good thing. We were joking about Tim Hires, pushing those guys to work the counts and patience, and swing at the strikes that you want to hit, or that the good strikes, the good pitches. And then Acuna comes in and just starts hacking away. First pitch, home run. First pitch he's seen in a year, home run. And he's striking out some, but he's doing so much damage. Who cares?
Yeah.
So the week ahead, Tuesday, the Mets come to Atlanta to start a 3-game set. And this begins a stretch of 13 straight division games, and 7 of those are with the New York Mets, who are in first place in the NL East. This is a chance to do a lot of damage within the division. We need to have a dominant stretch here, because this is what they have to do to put themselves in better position to be buyers at the deadline and not sellers. And then B is to have a chance at having the type of record that they need to have in order to make the postseason in this expanded format. And just keep in mind, last year, 2 teams made the postseason with 86 wins. There was a team, I don't remember now, but I know 84, I think, is the lowest that a team has had and made this expanded format. So if the Braves want to get there before today, I had that they needed to go 53-40. Obviously, they lost today, but whether we're shooting at 84, 86, or 90 games, we're talking about a winning percentage of somewhere between 570 and 630 roughly. So maybe a little better than that. So I feel like they can do that. I guess we can get into that later, and I'll let you hammer me on that one. But so let's get into the Mets breakdown then. We've got David Peterson against Spencer Schwellenbach in the first game of that series. How do you think that's going to play out for the Braves?
If they can work counts and get their pitches, I mean, every game against the Mets is going to be one of those playoff style games. It's going to be one of those deals where if somebody gets a clutch hit, they'll be able to do well. But they're going to have to work counts and get their pitches to do it. And I think that's going to be the case for all 3 of these games. Well, all 7 of these games coming up. So yeah, my answer is going to be about the same for all that. They're going to have to treat this as playoffs in June. They can't afford to drop too many of these games simply because they are already in a big hole that they need to dig themselves out of. And they're going to have the chance. They got you pointed out the Mets. Then they've got Miami, they've got the Mets again, and then the Phillies, all in succession, all these 13 games in a row. They're going to have to make some hay here. They're going to have to do it quickly, and they're going to have to stay on top of their game here.
Yeah, in that first game, Schwellenbach is bringing in a 3.11 ERA, and as good as that is, David Peterson is coming in with a 2.49. Peterson's been really good this year. He's a left-handed pitcher. The Braves have not been hitting left-handed pitching well this year. They're slashing 221, 289, and 373 against lefties. And our friend Ozzy Albies, he actually has a lower OPS against lefties than he does righties this year, and all 6 of his homers have come off of right-handed pitching. On the bright side, the 3 Braves who are swinging the bat pretty well right now, Acuna, Olsen, and Riley, are hitting Peterson very well over their careers. Acuna has a 435 on base with a 935 OPS in 18 at-bats. Olsen has 16 at-bats with 4 homers. And Austin Riley's hitting 391 with the most at-bats on the team and a 522 slug against Peterson. So hopefully they can continue that success against David Peterson and let Schwellenbach work his magic. How do you like Schwellenbach against the Mets lineup?
He's coming off his first complete game ever, and I think that bodes well. He's certainly coming in hot then. And so, as long as he's got enough rest, and that's going to be key, especially in this next 2 week stretch, then I think he should be fine. The Mets have not seen much of him. Yeah, they did last year, but they still haven't seen much of him. So element of surprise and the fact that he is doing so well this year, I think that's a good matchup for us.
Okay, game two, Paul Blackburn versus Chris Sale. This was supposed to be Kodai Senga. Senga is out with, I believe it was, I didn't write it down. I think it was a hamstring, grade one, not too serious, but they are shutting him down for 2 weeks and then they will ramp him up. And we were talking before the podcast. This is great news for the Braves. We need a lot of wins. We need every advantage we can get here. And Senga has a 1.47 ERA right now in the season, I believe it was. And
Yeah.
he's going to be missing both series. These 7 games coming up, he's going to miss both of these series. So the Braves are going to get the Mets without their best pitcher. And we happen to be rolling instead of Chris Sale versus Senga, we're getting Chris Sale versus Blackburn. So it's not an ace versus an ace scrap fight. It's this is advantage Braves. The odds, they'll probably be the favorites in this one if you're betting on it.
Yeah, looking at it though, the Mets don't drop off a heck of a lot. They're still in top 10 in starting pitching. They're third in the league, third in baseball, I think, in their bullpen. So even if you get the starter out of the game, there's not a lot of drop off there. Chris Sale
Mm.
has been victimized by giving up 1 or 2 runs and then having his offense not show up a lot. So again, this is playoff style baseball. You need to get some runs on the board early. You need to put pressure on the other side and then let Sale be Chris Sale. As long as he's got his stuff and he's going to have an extra day of rest. So we'll be in good shape.
Yes, and Blackburn has a 4.89 career ERA over 9 seasons. He's allowed 7 earned runs this year in 9.1 innings. So, like you said, he might have a short leash with the strength of their bullpen.
Yep.
So,
And
and then
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Well,
No,
I
go
was
ahead.
just going to say the way the Braves have set this up, they've got the Schwellenbach Sale Strider for 2 straight series against the Mets. They're going to hit them with those big guns both times. So the fact that Senga is not going to be there is going to be magnified by the fact that the Braves are going to have their best coming at them each time.
Yep. Which
Oh,
again,
mhm.
that's why we were talking about earlier. It's so important to get Spencer Strider in top form right now. So the Rocky series was great, big time heading into the Mets. So,
Mhm.
but as far as the Braves against Blackburn, there's really not much of a track record. Most people are 2, 3 at bats, maybe. Verdugo has 10. But collectively, the Braves are hitting 318 off of him with a 375 OBP, and that was over something like 22 total at bats. And they're slugging 455. So let's keep it
Yeah.
up. Hopefully, it continues like that. But it's definitely a great opportunity with Sale going against Blackburn. And then game three, Clay Holmes. This one is maybe the most interesting one in terms of suspense. Clay Holmes against Spencer Strider.
I
Break that
like
one down
this.
for us briefly.
Well, I like this because the Mets have not faced anybody the likeness of Strider this season that I'm aware of. Uh, they really are going to have to fight for runs. You pointed out before we started that they're a very top heavy lineup as they've got about 4 guys at the top. Uh, Lindor in some order, Lindor, Nimmo. Um, McNeil and Alonso. If you get past those guys, then you've got outs available at the rest of the lineup. They're going to have to put together their runs for those guys. And really, this goes for any of the starters. If you get past those guys, you're in good shape. As far as the Braves go, same formula. Work counts, get the starter out of the game, get some sneak across some runs, work counts, work the situation, scrap together some runs, and be a lot of 1 or 2 run games, I would imagine, but that should be sufficient.
Alan, I don't know if there's time, but who is going to have the most saves for the Braves in the upcoming week?
Oh, good question. Is it bullpen by committee? Because they're going to have to rest these guys a lot in these next 13 games in a row. So I'm not going to stick my neck out on a limb there. But the real trick is finding the guy who is on and not like today, the guy who isn't on, and that's going to be the problem for us going forward.
I'll say Dylan Lee.
Okay. I'll still go Iglesias because you got to go with your horse in situations like this. That's what they pay him for. He needs to be ready.
All right. Are we out of time?
We got 1 minute to go. Anything to wrap up?
When you sent me the 3-minute warning, I thought, okay, well, no, we'll just end it. We have to go. The time she's up. So thanks for joining us, Alan. Thanks for joining. I know it's been tough. You haven't been feeling well, so hopefully we can keep doing this on a regular basis.
We appreciate it. Y'all be good.
Mm-hmm.